This tutorial is by Cooper Collier, lead programmer with WatersWebWorks.com. Please visit our TeamDesk expert listing if you need assistance or have any questions, and we'll be happy to help.
Currently, I'm approaching the end of making the tutorial videos for relations, and it's a multi-part, very long one, but we've reached the point now that we need to jump to another topic or we're going to have problems going forward. You may be watching this next topic or this topic is not part of the relation tutorials, and I highly recommend once you watch this, go to the beginning of the relation tutorials and watch those. Don't try to jump in the middle of the relation tutorials. And anyone who is following the tutorials for relations, take the time to watch this one at this point because you're really going to help the next couple of tutorials that we have. So what we're doing is we're hitting a point where something becomes very important. That something is making a diagram. A diagram is every bit as important as making notes and naming your relations while you're making them. And that means that I don't do it as much as I should, but we do it. Now, the importance of making a diagram is it simplifies in your brain and to other people what you're working on. Right. Currently, when you look at setup, you're looking at these columns in your link table and then these columns over here. And to tie them together, you have to look at your selection and your reference. It can get confusing, especially if you start putting more links together. Now, if I go over here, this is a diagram that I have drawn. And this is actually the second draft of the class. So my editor in the first draft class said, you need to show people why you have a diagram and how complicated they get. And then I showed her this one, this project diagram, and she said, oh, this is simple. It is. And then I said, go to the other tabs on the bottom. She didn't notice the other tabs on the bottom. But for 1 second, let's take a quick look at this one. This one is it is very basic, but it shows us a lot of things. It shows us that I have an employee table, I have employee documents, and I have employee incidents. So this would be like a report of things that happen. And I show that I take this ID field, and it's going to go into this reference and field, and that one's going to go in this reference field. So now I know how these link together, but more importantly is that I got this little trick right here to go to supervisor. And that is showing that if I want to have this person's supervisor, I'm actually going to put the person's ID into the supervisor, but supervisors are going to be employees also. And I probably should have labeled this a little better, but I made these diagrams mostly for myself. And just this little bit right here will clear things up. If I look into this database, this would be confusing, but right here it's easy to see. But let's go look at this tab. All of a sudden, things get really confusing. And I indicate that this table and this table are done with a many-to-many reference, just what we've been talking about in our relations class. Whereas they're also linked with a many-to-many and a many-to-many, and hey, I spelled things wrong, deal with it. I have these are relations, probably. I note things, but see this, and this is just one flow, or because I don't have enough space to put everything, and you need to break things up in your diagrams. I have another many-to-many reference between these two with the link table in between. And as you can see, I have this one backwards. Oops. I probably never noticed it if I wasn't actually teaching the class. There. Now it's showing the right way. So you can see the ID field goes here and here, and here's our link table. Here's another link table. Over here, this one here, same thing. This one's even more complicated. I have a many-to-many, this stuff coming here. I haven't even finished this one. This table here for if anytime you make a schedule for tasks and calendars, they get complicated fast because in TeamDesk you pretty much put all schedule items in one place. Otherwise, your calendar doesn't work real well. So this table here has multiple lookups. See, those are lookups and stuff. Now, you can see real quick that this is going to be important. If I look at this table in TeamDesk, it is not going to make sense. I'm going to be there for a long time trying to figure out what I did. This clears it up in my mind, and we're going to use this. What you can do when you make a diagram, anything will work for a diagram. Of course, anything, if you want to go to the lumber store, any vehicle will work. You could take your little Volvo car to the lumber store and make, I don't know, if you're going to pick up a pallet of wood, 50 trips, one piece of wood at a time, or you can take a truck. Same thing with anything. Some tools work better than others. The important thing to look for is to be able to link entities together properly. Now I'm just going to throw PowerPoint under the bridge. I like PowerPoint. I like Google's drawing presentation program also. So let's look at PowerPoint. There is some problems with PowerPoint. And the main problem with PowerPoint is it was designed to be a presentation package, not a diagramming package. And it works great for presentations, and it only works okay for diagramming. But it is much faster to use. That's why in many of these previous tutorials, I drew diagrams in PowerPoint. But if we're going to make our database diagram, here's where the problem comes in. We put a table here and a table here. Here's my references to cars. So to show this link, I would show that the ID here is going to be stored here. So I could get a link right there and I can draw it out just like that. You'll say, perfect, that is done. Here's the problem. If I click over here and decide to move this table, my link doesn't move with it. I have to go over here and remake it. Many drawing programs that I have found for charting and stuff won't let you. They let you attach to the object, but they treat tables as one object. So now I'm linked, but I'm linked to the center of this line here, to the whole object. So it looks like I have make linking up with either ID or name. And when you're diagramming a database, you really need to be able to set your links to each column. Or we turned our column sideways, now they're rows, but we need to be able to use our database fields and link them to where they actually go. So I did a lot of looking and a lot of things, and I am certain there's other programs to do this, but what I found, which was the best for me, was this Draw.io. You can find them if you go to about drawio.com. There they are. They're free. They work with Google Drive and a few other things. Um, from what we use them for, it is 100% free. I think they're a great company. Maybe you can donate to them, or maybe you'll have use for their price integrations. I have that's my entire relation with them, is I use them for drawing. So I'm not plugging them as something special. I just happen to know they work. And that's what I'm going to use when I show diagrams for the class. If you find something else that works better, by all means, use it. The important thing is to get things drawn out so you understand them, so other people understand them who may be working with you. So simply draw IO. They're great. And let's jump over here and look. The reason they're great is because I made the same thing that I had in PowerPoint. Now, if I want to hook these two together, I want the ID to go into the reference here. I can just draw a link. And it's a pretty yellow link. It just used the last thing I used, so let's make it a dark blue. And let's, right here I do things, and let's put the arrow that direction. That's it. Easy, huh? And now when I move it, it moves around, and you will move your tables around. There's no doubt about it. And when you get a table that has many of these arrows going to it, nudging it and having all your arrows go to wrong places. Now, typically in Draw.io, I use, I go and open up at the very bottom, use more shapes, and I either use one in UML, this one I like, or if I go to entity relations and one of these on top, typically this one I'll use. And I just drag it over and use it to draw it. And I can put the ID right here and then rows in here. So let's look at it from our perspective of what have been looking at in this tutorial. In this tutorial, for people who jumped right in, what we have is currently we have vehicles, cars, and it's very simple. And we have a multi-relation reference to colors. And with the multi-reference, we have a link table. And it's very important, especially going forward, that we know the difference between our two tables and the link table. So we're going to have them drawn out or it's going to get confusing. So I went over here and drew 3 tables, and there they are. And the way I would indicate that we have a multi-reference is I'd come over here and I'd show that the ID for cars would be going here. And then I would come over here and say this ID actually goes here. That one. There we go. And this shows where they're linked. But it's important to know that this table is linked to this table. And it is done with a multi-reference. And in that case, I would draw that. Can I change this to blocky? Right there. Make this go up a little bit. Change the color. And maybe use, I don't know what I use. Dotted line to show the multi-reference. It goes both ways. Text on it to say reference. And actually, we named our multi-reference when we made it, and we called it cleverly BBB, and on this side AAAA. So we might want to refer to that like that. AAA, clever names, and BBB. Anything to identify it. Now that we have that in there, a couple little points that are a little bit harder, but I'm not teaching how to use Draw.io. They have great tutorials. Go to them or figure it out. But one thing I did have trouble figuring out is, because I wasn't watching, is if we go double click on a table and click in one of the cells, and this is a table and you don't see the cells, down here in the bottom you get your cell or the table features, boxes, whatever. So when you need to add more, You kind of pull down on this. It drove me nuts trying to figure this out. And then you go down here and pick insert row after. And now there's another row down here that we can add. There's the lines are not showing, but this is just a little pre-made table that you use. So that's where we're at now. We have this diagram, and we can start using this diagram going forward with our tutorials on relations, because it's going to be very, very important to understand what we're doing. So thank you, and we'll continue in the next tutorial lesson. And for you people who are just watching this diagramming portion, feel free, please go to the beginning of the relations tutorials and run through them from the start. If you don't, they build on each other and probably be lost, because I would be. Thank you.